Hey everyone, it's Josh, Z50a Minis, East Orlando, Florida. This video is going to be on electrical harness stuff and ever popular swap engines, Chinese pit bike engines into these vintage bikes. I'm going to show you another way to get this engine installed with, as far as electrical goes, and use a stock OEM harness. So I'll show you some details. We'll kind of go over the basics of the Stator system and my approach to getting this engine that was given to me by the customer to install, working with the OEM harness and keep all that functionality that would have been there with the OEM engine. The quick rundown on this bike: this is a 69 Hardtail Z, and we have a 110cc Chinese engine. It's a 12-volt engine, has the lighting coils on it, so we'll have power for the accessories. Typically what you get in these kits when you buy these engines would be the engine itself, intake manifold, probably some carb, Chinese knockoff carb of Makini or something like that. Usually they'll give you like a basic harness. So let me step back. This engine is a kickstart, so it's a non-e-start. So you usually get like a basic harness like this that has no provisions for the starter solenoid and such. So this is a very basic harness, and you will typically get your CDI box for your ignition. What you don't get is a regulator rectifier most of the times, but this time I'm building this bike as straight AC wire voltage, or AC voltage from the stator that's going to power the headlights. So we're not going to have a battery involved, and then I'm going to show you how I am going to use this basic cheap harness that comes with your kit, make some changes on it, and have it plug and play to the factory key style harness. What I did use on this bike this year would usually have a battery, but we're going batteryless. So I used the K1, the K2 harness, which eliminated the battery. So we have a harness that is wired up that does not need a battery in the system. So I used the K2 harness and key switch on a K1 Z50 just for simplicity. And usually the battery on this bike would be a little bracket here, but again, we're making this bike very simple approach to getting it wired up. Into some basics. Again, Chinese engine. It's a CDI setup here. So what we have from the engine itself, from the stator, is 5-wire typical engine. All right. So we'll go through each wire and quickly explain what its function is, or what kind of electrical current it's providing. The green one is your ground wire. You have a red or a black with a red stripe wire. That's your primary coil that generates the electricity that goes to the spark plug. Then you have a blue with a white stripe wire. That's going to be your pickup, that pulse pickup. That's the timing of the spark. And these two wires go to your CDI box, and then the box converts it and does its thing. And then you have your two other wires out here that are on the secondary coil, which is your lighting auxiliary coil, and you have a yellow and white wire. So those are both responsible for AC voltage coming from your stator, providing either direct AC voltage for headlights, or giving you an opportunity to run this to a regulator rectifier, which is going to regulate the voltage, keep it at a certain threshold, and rectifying the AC voltage and converting it to a DC voltage that the battery likes. So let's turn our attention to the harness again. But real quick, one thing I forgot to mention on this bike is the high tension coil that usually comes in the kits. So I have it mounted already, so I forgot about it. But those will come with your engine too. This is the high tension coil that feeds to your spark plug. All right. So just real quick on the harness. So I just kind of pulled it apart. Remember, we got that 5 wires setup that comes from your engine. These, unfortunately, the end connectors don't match, so I'll make some changes to make sure that we can get all those wires connected as we need. But what we're looking at is this little harness. You got your main 5-wire area. That's gonna have the connector that goes to your CDI box. Then you have these 2 leads that come out. One is going to be for a key switch if you use it, and the other one is a kill switch. So these are both used to kill the engine, ground the spark out. And then these bullet connectors are going to be where 3 of them are going to be where you connect to the harness or the connector that comes out of the engine. So again, we have these 3 wires, like I showed you on the 5-wire setup on the engine. Those 3 wires are the black with the red line on it. That's your spark from your primary. The green is going to be the ground wire that connects to the engine ground wire lead. And then we have a blue and white, and that's your pulse pickup. That's the timing. And then up here are 2 leads that are actually, so this is feeding into the CDI, and then there's 2 pins that are feeding back. You're getting your ground, the main ground, common ground, and then this black and yellow lead is the one that's going to plug. These 2, black and yellow and green, are going to plug in on the coil here. See how we have these 2 terminals? So those are where those go. Harness. These are the connectors that we need to connect. They're all bullet connectors. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this connector off and then put some bullet connectors on these parts here. Just did my bullet connectors. Just going to be a visual kind of where we're at with the process. So all the spark related, engine firing, running related wires are connected to your little harness that comes with the kit. Again, these are the lighting coil. Has nothing to do with the actual spark of the engine. So these are off to the side. I took the leads that will feed the high tension spark coil on the frame, and I made some extensions for that so that I could plug in onto the coil. And then we still have our on-off key switch and kill switch leads that I'm going to modify. If you just wanted to install this engine, you didn't even care about lights, you didn't care about the other harness that I'm going to incorporate it with, your engine will run at this point. All this really needs to run and operate is a frame ground condition. You've connected it as I've shown, and then the kill switch, a way to kill the engine, which either be one of those cheap aftermarket key switches or the kill switch that I have laying around, which would plug right into the harness, and this little cheap style push button kill switch. So right now the engine will run just fine and operate fine, and then that would be the kill switch. Alright, just wanted to clarify that you don't need any worry about these 2 wires that are the lighting coil setup. It's good to go as it is. But we're going to go a step further and make it work with the stock harness. So now that we've got the wiring addressed for the engine for it to operate and run, now let's address the electrical side of things for the lighting, so we can get the lighting to function on this bike and run it through the stock harness. So we have these 2 leads left coming off the engine, which are the auxiliary lighting leads. We're going to get it to connect into the stock harness, which is a connector here. I'll go real quick and show you a quick harness wiring schematics for this K2 harness that I'm using. We're going to also work on getting that, instead of using that cheap kill switch that I showed you, I'm going to run one of those leads in through the stock harness so that it works with the key switch, which is your original off function on this bike. So let's go take a quick look at the schematics of the OEM harness. Oh yeah, one other thing I am introducing into this is, because this unregulated will spike so high and below the bulbs AC voltage that comes out of this stator, I am using a Trail Tech AC voltage regulator for 12 volts. It can adjustability on it, so you can choose how bright you want that bulb to burn. You can get them really bright. Obviously it will reduce the lifespan of the bulb, but this has a little adjustability on it, a little little thing here that you can turn and keep it around 12 plus volts or bump it all the way up past 14. So I'm going to get this wired into this too, so we're regulating the voltage before it gets to the bulbs.